I'm seriously, not a bad joke, honored to be here. And I will try, since I talk too much, to keep it short. This is more some introductory remarks to give you an idea where we are. So, where are we? I like to flirt with quantum mechanics, but what fascinates me is how to apply notions of quantum mechanics, superpositions, collapse, and so on, to social events, to history. And my basic idea is this one, while still, in some sense, a radical leftist, but be warned, my official self-designation is now a moderately conservative communist. I will explain why. I think that what we have to leave behind is this either liberal or Marxist dream of a history which, even if you say, yeah, it's contingent, it may not happen, which points in a certain direction, like with Fukuyama, we had end of history. Fukuyama is not an idiot. Now he is for Bernie Sanders. He saw that that doesn't function. Or we have orthodox Marxists who think, yeah, there are some complications, but nonetheless, communism is in the future. And, you know, even if they mask their determinism, like the famous saying by Rosa Luxemburg, the future will be socialism or barbarism. You know what she missed. In Stalinism, we get both at the same time, no? Socialism. So my idea is this one. You know, this basic idea of quantum superpositions. A particle goes, I simplify to the utmost, from point A to point B. But to understand what happens, you must presuppose then that in this, let's call it, virtual state of waves, particle takes all possible routes, and then in one it collapses. And I think we are today in such a moment. Who knows where we are going? We know that we have 3-4 deadly threats, crises. Ecology, war, immigration, I mean population movements, and so on. I will not go into it, but the key problem is how they will interact. Like, some people think that if ecology crisis goes even in a more terrible direction, then there will be less wars. I'm not so sure. It's completely open. So my idea is that we are now in a state of superpositions. It may be some new socialism, it may be new barbarism with islands of civilization around it, murderous violence. But now comes my bad news. You can ask me questions later. I think that makes me sad. The most probable result will be what I call, not that I like it, soft fascism. By soft, I mean not direct Nazi fascism, kill them, but simply what? The best definition of fascism is, for me, a conservative revolution. That is to say, you want to participate in the capitalist dynamic, fast development, but you are aware, many intelligent fascists knew this, you are aware that left to itself, free capitalism and liberalism can end up in social disintegration. So the idea is in economy capitalism, but controlled by a strong state, which legitimizes itself by a reference to some mostly invented, it doesn't matter, traditional religious but not necessarily religious ideology. You know, now I will maybe hurt some among you, but you know who is here almost my model? I closely follow what goes on there. China. I read, people don't notice this. 2 months ago, Xi, their leader, gave a speech, and he began with, our youth is not educated enough, we have to train them ideologically. Then I expected the usual stuff, read more Marx, Mao. No, he said Confucian tradition. We need that tradition to hold things together. Modi is doing the same in India. Extremely brutal capitalism, but, and so on. This is, if you ask me, for the majority of the world, the most probable direction. So history is not on our side. Another thing that worries me extremely, I don't know if you noticed it, is that more and more states are so-called rogue states. Now, don't be afraid. I will not use this term in the usual Western developed imperialist way, but who is today a rogue state? I propose a very simple definition of a rogue state. You have a certain legal structure, laws, police, and so on, and a rogue state, one of the approaches, is the state where the existing order cannot reproduce itself legally in its own ideological terms and needs a support of brutal illegal violence. The first idea that comes here is, of course, Haiti, where the state fell apart and even more now than 80% of the territory is run by gangs. But why remain there? Let me go to the, for some people, highest points. What about Russia? Wagner Group was a typical half-legal, illegal military group, as we learned now, totally financed by state, but nonetheless kept at some distance from power. Then, let's be frank, till now the mask has fallen, settlers on the West Bank in Israel. They were following Israeli laws themselves illegal. And that's the tragedy of Israel today. Itamar Ben-Gvir was condemned by Israeli courts some 20 years ago as a racist criminal. Now he is a minister for, of course, security. Even in the United States, look at all those groups which are in this mixture today at the same time, anti-Muslim and anti-Semitic and all, like Proud Boys and so on. Trump keeps them at distance, but nonetheless manipulates with them. This is the true failed state. A state itself cannot reproduce itself in accord with its own, not just ideology, but legal premises, and so on. So we should be aware of this radical openness of the situation. It's obviously that our situation today cannot go on indefinitely. But the situation is not predetermined. We don't know how it will, again, to use in a simplified way the quantum terms, into what single reality will it collapse. I don't have now time to go into my favorite Hegelian topic, because I think that Hegel was aware of this, of what? Of retroactivity, in the sense then that when a certain version takes place, retroactively, it doesn't, of course, change the past empirically. What happened, happened. But the narration, the way we perceive the past changes. We are all the time changing the past. And although Marx is often dismissed as naive progressist, yes, there are these elements in Marx. But nonetheless, in some place in his big manuscript, Grundrisse, he says something wonderful. He says, in the same way that anatomy of a man is the key to the anatomy of the ape, capitalism provides the anatomy and allow us to interpret all the previous stages. But I think Marx is here radically anti-teleological. His point is not, oh, capitalism was predetermined and so on. No, his point is much more refined. Once capitalism won, we retroactively read the entire history, we rewrite it as leading towards capitalism. That's why I love, although I don't always agree with them, the work of David Graeber and the other guy, Wengro. They tried to show this superposition in ancient Inca society. You know, how it wasn't just sacrificing children, horror. There was an incredible local democracy at work. It just collapsed in. So my lesson is to understand what happens, always focus on what might have happened but didn't happen. Because what might have happened doesn't simply disappear. It remains either as a reactionary dream or as a very progressive dream. I will not go on in this direction, just to say that because of all this, I think we should be very careful in how we define progress. For example, the big question today, I'm approaching the end, artificial intelligence. I think we approach it in the wrong way when we ask the question, will it be able to think, really? And by this, we usually mean think like us humans. First, I think, again, that it's an abstract question. We don't know the answer in the sense that why do we always formulate it in these terms? Will it think like us? It's possible that a totally different form of, we may even call it spirituality, will emerge, but no, this is my psychoanalytic approach. And to provoke you, I will use it. When I asked myself, and I spoke with many specialists, I accepted this stupid debate. Of course, what can artificial intelligence do? Of course, it can calculate whatever much faster than we. It can learn itself, self-reproduce. But my point, and my partners in dialogue were usually shocked, are two things which are, for me, specifically human. And they are crucial for our humanity. One is the daily rituals. No, superstitious habits, rather. You know, for example, I have one, and don't give me that bullshit, that psychoanalysis, that it has to do with my fear of insemination or what. Whenever I wash my hands, even if I see that no water is dropping, I have to check it with my hand. What if I just don't see them, but this is an absolute habit. But you know all these habits. For example, I read in a biography of Agatha Christie that every evening, after finishing her writing, she took a bath and ate an apple. While what's the point of these stupid habits? They have no deeper meaning. I think it's wrong to play psychoanalysis here. No, they are a pure appearance of meaning. But you know what I mean? Meaning as such without any meaning. It's wrong to say, oh, this means that trauma. I don't know, Agatha Christie was thinking that she is Eve in paradise, apples, whatever. No, it's just this empty appearance of meaning by means of which we counteract the obvious chaotic meaninglessness of our lives. Now, my big surprise comes The second thing, I don't think that artificial intelligence can swear, really. Swearing is for me something very interesting. It's not just vulgarity. Swearing means a proof that we humans, we exist in language. We think, but thinking occurs in words, in language, but we are never at home, really, in language. And in swearing, when you swear, we don't express simply dissatisfaction with some objective event. I want to do this. No, it's frustration about not being able to formulate it in your language. So I have here, and I talked about this with my religious friends. I have many, and they agreed with me, that I always like this anachronistic tautological movements, you know, that imagine Christ on the cross, no? Forget about that, Father, why have you forsaken me? When he was dying, he should be swearing. Maybe that's the paradox, but I think there is truth. He should have said, "Oh Christ, where I am," and so on. But you see what I mean? It's a certain embarrassment of our inability to be in language, which is constitutive of our humanity. Now, let me conclude with another maybe surprising moment for you. What makes me really sad today is the exploding, I cannot but use this term, shamelessness. Things which in public space were simply impossible, even 10 years ago. You can say them publicly today. And I don't mean just the obvious example, all the vulgarities of Donald Trump, of your own Boris Johnson, and so on. But even, for example, I'm definitely not anti-Semitic. I see also the Israeli side. But what really shocked me is two things that happened recently in Israel. In August, they had a debate when, in Knesset, their parliament, Zionist members protested because in a prison just south of Jerusalem, where Hamas prisoners are kept, nobody denies it now. There are even video clips. Guards were doing pretty rough things, like pushing up the rectum, big metal sticks with needles in them. Many, many prisoners died from bleeding. Okay, I'm here, I try to be neutral. Who knows what other sides are doing? I'm not saying. But what depressed me is the debate in Knesset. You can find it easily on YouTube. When the predominant tone was, it's a shame that our guards were arrested for doing this. Hamas members are less than human. We can do whatever we want to them. You see, I think it's better hypocrisy than this type of openness. And also, another thing, similar thing shocked me. Now, an honest, with decency, Israeli soldier, his name is Eliran Mizrahi, returned from Gaza, where he was ordered to do horrible things. With a bulldozer, he was running over hundreds of dead and alive Palestinians. He was in such a crisis that he killed himself. And the reaction was not, which would be my reaction. At least he obviously had some decency. No, the reaction of official IDF psychologists was how to train soldiers that they will not have ethical problems with acting like this. That's for me the end, this shamelessness. So, to conclude, really, what fascinates me so much is that Jacques Lacan, my psychoanalytic teacher, gave a seminar, The Other Side of Psychoanalysis, in 69-70, his reaction to 68 events, where instead of simply supporting student revolts and so on, he said, what you are lacking is shame. He said, the ultimate goal of psychoanalysis today in our era of permissiveness, is not get rid of paternal oppression, realize all your fantasies, but it's a lack of shame, which then results in universalized perversion. Lacan is here referring to something that already Freud knew. Perversion is much less subversive than hysteria. And if you know a little bit of psychoanalysis, this couple is usually also sexualized. Like, this is the usual male chauvinist stance. Women are hysterical, they just moan, but secretly they want a new master, no? While men are perverse, they do what they dream about. Freud already knew it, that he put it literally. Nowhere is the unconscious more oppressed than in perversion. All great things happen through hysteria. And this is, I think, the lesson for us. When I was young, we were this old-style leftists. We thought those in power have dignity, but we, you know, all obscene gestures, we spoke, used dirty words, and we got the answer, which is that those in power are now more obscene than we even imagined to be. We got it so wrong in the last elections, how Democrats really cannot learn anything. They thought that, you know, when Trump was caught lying, they thought, oh, now we caught him. No, it only helped him. When Trump was caught in vulgarities, in lies, that was the basis of his identification. People loved him for that. So the question to ask is, now in our era of this type of permissiveness, how to restore a basic sense of shame. Thank you very much if I was too long here.